hear me now? There's a list going around in the back. Please sign it. You'll be taking comments from the public in order of that sheet.
Can we ask them to print?
Oh yeah. Please print legibly. It's working, it's just not close enough to you. Okay.
Yes. You raise volume.
I guess if they can't hear it in the back, yes. Yeah.
If the first sheet has been filled, could you pass that first sheet up? Yep. You can continue signing if you wish, if anybody wishes. All right. Excuse me. Give it the court report, please.
You got it.
Thank you. Come also, please speak.
There you go.
Okay. Good evening. This is the Town of Ossining Planning Board for April 4th, 2018. Could we just go around the table to introduce ourselves?
Mark Koslick, planning board member.
Ching-Hua Chin, Chair.
Garrett Coughlin, planning board member.
Jim Bosinas, board member.
David Stolman, town planner.
Catherine Delantis, planning board attorney.
Nancy Arcia, consulting engineer to the planning board.
Sandy Anelli, secretary, planning board.
Thank you. The item on the agenda tonight is the River Knoll 48 Croton Dam Road, the draft environmental impact statement, DEIS, public hearing. We're opening it for comments. But before we start, I'd like to note that since there seems to be many people who are interested in speaking, that we keep our time reasonably within limits here. Hopefully we can, each person can take about 4 minutes to speak, and if you start hearing the same comments made, please just make a statement that you agree with whoever spoke before about whichever topic you wish, rather than going into the exact same details. The other thing that we want to point out here is that we'd like to make, if the board would like to consider, the town board has requested that the period for public comment on this DES be extended until May 16th, 2018. Could I have a resolution from the board whether or not to support that?
For written comment.
The written comments.
I'll motion, I agree with that.
Second.
Second. Any objections? No. So basically, so the public's aware, we are extending the public written comments until May 16th, 2018. So even if you do not get to speak today, or if you hadn't had a chance to write something for us to consider, you have time until May 16th to submit that in writing, and anything that's submitted in writing will also be addressed by the applicant. Any questions about that?
Yes.
Shoot, go ahead.
How would that be submitted? The comments in writing?
Sandy?
You can send it to the building department? Town of Ossining Building Department?
Building department online or?
Yes, we have an email on the main website, townofaustining.com. You can go to the planning board, and there's a place to send in comments, or you could just email it directly to our department,
Okay.
or mail it and drop it off.
Thank you.
Could you announce the email address?
It's, our email is building department, but it's abbreviated. It's BLDGDEPT@townofaustining.com.
Thank you.
Is the applicant present today?
Yes,
Do you have any comments beforehand?
yes. Just want to give a brief summary if I could.
You can use the microphone?
Yes, I will. I just, excuse me. Good evening. My name is William Null. I'm a member of the firm of Cuddy and Fader, and I'm here on behalf of the applicant, Glencoe Group LLC and Stony Lodge Hospital INC. As you said correctly, Mr. Chairman, this is a public hearing on the draft environmental impact statement, which has been available in the library and in other locations in hard copy and online since early March when it was accepted by the planning board. The document, the purpose of the hearing is to get comments on the DEIS and to any issues raised in connection therewith. I know your consultants may comment on this, but the purpose is primarily to give comment on the issues as they're detailed in the DEIS, and to provide other information if possible. It's really not on whether somebody wants or doesn't want the application as presented. We're looking to try and be able to take the comments and respond to the comments in what's called an FEIS, the Final Environmental Impact Statement. And they're going to need to be substantive comments responding to your statements and questions tonight. So we look forward to getting public input and to being able to respond to those comments. Historically, for people to know, the initial application, which includes a petition to amend the zoning ordinance, was submitted in November of 2015 to the town board. And the planning board declared itself to be lead agency for the environmental review of this matter. And that indeed is what's occurring here. The planning board as lead agency is conducting this hearing. As I said, the DEIS was accepted by the planning board in early March. As you probably, most of you know, the premises is approximately 17.9 acres, just a little under 18 acres, most of which is in the town of Ossining. 16.65 acres are in the town of Ossining. 1¼ acres are within the village of Ossining. So the proposed development here is to demolish the Stony Lodge Psychiatric Hospital. It was a 61-bed private psychiatric hospital for children and adolescents that opened in 1927, and replace it with 169 market rate units and 19 with what are called below market rate BMR units under the town's code. We're looking to develop the areas that were occupied by buildings on the site so that we preserve the large meadow area along Croton Dam Road. And hopefully, we don't have plans here, but they're available. All the detailed plans, including the alternatives and analyses, are set forth in that DEIS, and I encourage people to look at that information. It was developed under the guidance and direction of the planning board and the town's consultants. And there's a lot of information there, including traffic, that responded to comments that many of you raised during the DEIS scoping session when questions were raised about locations to analyze traffic or other issues to bring up. So the portion of the premises that are wholly within the town of Ossining and are the subject of the petition to amend the zoning code are mapped in the R15 one-family residence district. And we're looking to amend that to establish a new MF2, multifamily residence district, that would enable us to develop it as mentioned for the number of units indicated. And that includes a 10% required affordable housing component. So that's generally the outline. I don't know if any of you have any other facts or circumstances you want me to mention, but I wanted people to generally understand what the application is, to the extent that any of you we're not fully familiar. Thank you.
Does the board have any comments at this time? Staff have any comments at this time? Good, we'll open it up for public comments. Who's on first?
The first is Jack Riley.
Mr. Riley?
My name is Jack Riley. I'm a lifelong resident of Ossining. I live at 23 Plymouth Road. I had a chance to look at the document EAF Part 2, and I was at the library last night and heard the presentation made to the town. There's many people here, and so I don't want to take too much time, but some of the things that just doesn't sit well with me is that EAF Part 2 report. One thing says there'll be no impact on open space and recreation. I'm sorry, 370 parking spaces, 188 more units. What is Veterans Park going to be like? What kind of weekend traffic are you going to be bringing in there? That's one. Transportation. Did anybody stop or ride down Dale Avenue behind a school bus? Okay, and watch 25 kids get off at a time? Imagine some of those new residents of River Knolls, how long they'll have to wait, okay, when those buses are dropping off and picking up kids. It's just a thought. No impact on the community and the character of the neighborhood. Look all around at the zoning map. Single-family homes. It's like River Knolls, nice concept, but you're in it for the money and not for the benefit of the community. You come across as if you're going to give the school district a payment. That's what you said last night. You didn't tell us how much, or if there was going to be a pilot, or is there a pilot on this project. But you know what? Our school district cannot even think of putting another bathroom in without expanding the footprints of the existing facilities we have. How are we going to deal with those 22 to 27 new students your project will bring in, the Phelps project will bring in, the Snowden Avenue project will bring in, and others that are on the planning board? So I'm going to let my neighbors, add to some of the arguments, but these are my concerns. I think it needs to be scaled down. Again, you're like a giant in a small, it's a giant puzzle piece that just doesn't fit in that area of town. Thank you.
We don't want them directing it at the applicant. It's always just the board.
Hold on 1 second, you have to be introduced.
John Leslie.
Okay.
Hold on 1 second.
One of the board members has noted that you should really be directing your comments directly towards the board. The public will hear it, of course, but please address us.
All right, John Leslie, Dale Avenue. I have two comments, questions related to the environmental impact, and then just one kind of statement to tag along with Mr. Riley. The first is I didn't read the what's available in the library, so this may have been covered, but I just wanted to put it in your craw just in case it wasn't. When the traffic study was done, I was just curious to know at what time of the year was it done, because if it was done in the summertime and it didn't necessarily take into effect the school year, I wanted to make sure. And then it wasn't done on the weekend. Strangely enough, when I went up Hawks Avenue today, I saw those traffic monitoring cables, and my wife made the comment, hey, they're out now. Do you think that's for the River Knolls project? They're just doing it now when the kids are off on vacation this week. So that's things just bounce around in your head. The second thing was a comment that I had when this was initially proposed last year. There had been numerous backups in the sewer line in front of Conti's. And my belief is that the existing sewer line that runs along Dale Avenue is of already, as it stands, a lesser size that could diameter-wise, that could comfortably handle the existing load. And I look at this historically because when all the condos were put up across 9A, that certainly increased the load on those lines going down Dale Avenue. And so I wanted to know, I would just think common sense would say, we're adding another however many people, and the increase in waste coming through there. The lines may have been bigger for the new condos, but when they funnel down into what I'm imagining is a smaller existing line on Dale Avenue, it just doesn't work. So it's going to impact the underground infrastructure, and I want to make sure that that's not, that everything's going to be fine. Okay, I don't know, because they may take care of what they can do on their end, but what's down in the village may have some unforeseen consequences that you guys are going to have to deal with, or the town and village are going to have to deal with. My other comment to tag along with Mr. Riley is that when all these groups keep coming in, I know that I believe Mr. Sanchez and the school board, you know, they want the community to the education, but as he said, to increase the education, but as he said, the existing structures are not enough. And I'm going to say that at some point in time, no matter what is being offered by this outfit, that we can expect to see a school bond coming along, not far behind. So, and it's going to keep going up with all these other projects that Mr. Riley has raised. Thank you.
Just as a note, as already been mentioned, the document has been in public view, and there is still time for the public to go and examine it and make written comments. And so if you have not had a chance to look at it and you're merely planning to make a generalized statement that doesn't necessarily address anything that or may have been already been covered by the statement, please consider that you're taking up time from your other neighbors who may be speaking. Okay, thank you. Next.
Bob Salente.
Thank you. Gentlemen, I'll be brief. I remember when they were doing the project on the other side of 9A. My name is Bob Salente. I live at 13 Feeney Road. I've been a resident here for over 40 years now. And I remember when they were putting up the projects across on the corner of 9A. And the builder said then that the impact on the school would be very, very little. That they were doing it as a high income, and there would be very, very few children in the units. Do you know today the school bus goes up into that unit, into those units, and they come out half full? So the impact is significant, and I believe the impact on the school district with these 188 units will also be significant. Thank you. Oh, by the way, I was a school business administrator for 40 years in New York State, and I know for certain that the people who are sending their kids to school from those apartments will not be paying their fair share either.
Ray Santucci.
Hi, my name is Ray Santucci. I live at 29 Grandview Avenue. I look right over into the meadow. My house is on the corner, right on Croton Dam Road. They conducted this traffic survey, and I don't know the exact figure of how many more cars they said it would increase trips, but reading on traffic surveys and studies that have been done, most of them are wrong. They are actually, they don't account for, you know, they're about 30% off the amount of trips. And What I'm saying is, what about the noise and that I'm gonna hear from all these vehicles? Also, anytime you improve a road, studies also show that if you put those turning lanes in, like they're talking about doing, it actually increases traffic as well because of convenience. People love convenience, so you're gonna gain more. Well, what am I gonna do? Listen to cars all day long? I mean, that's all I have to say, but I don't wanna hear that noise.
Nancy Kennedy?
My name is Nancy Kennedy. I live at 22 Croton Dam Road, and I've been a resident of Ossining for over 4 years. As Mr. Santucci indicated, I am right on Croton Dam Road. I have yet to be able to successfully get out of my driveway without having near collision with cars that are already trafficking there. The school buses, needless to say, go up and down constantly, as they should, and that in turn causes more traffic backup. I'm concerned that we're not taking into consideration the safety of the traffic. I would rather see that than the flow. You know, we can always manage to say, yes, it's flowing properly, but can we say it's flowing safely? And that's a major concern. There's young children, there are people that want, I'm sure even residents that will be here will have children, that want to secure a safe transit for their families and their children. That's a major concern, and I think that I would like to have that addressed. Thank you.
Aaron Spring?
Hi, Aaron Spring, 64 Meadow Road. I'm just going to reiterate a little bit of what Mr. Salente was talking about as well with the school and how our schools are already overcrowded as is, and we don't have enough room for the students that we already have, and we simply don't have the money or the facilities to continue to house and educate students, or additional students rather. We can't afford it, and these apartments or these condos are not going to be paying their fair share, and who's going to have to make up for that is single-family homes. And I'm sick and tired of hearing every day from people who have lived here all their lives. They have to either downsize and move out of the community, they paid off their house, and now they can't afford to live here simply because of the taxes. And we know that the shortfall and the lack of financial funding that we're going to get from these condos or these apartments is going to land on the single-family homes and on the single-family homeowners, and enough is enough. It's too expensive as is. We can't afford this, and we don't need a downsize of this. We just don't need this project at all. And, you know, that's all I really got to say.
Lower the volume a bit. It seems to be giving
It's
feedback.
echoing.
Yeah.
Oh, is there some way to?
Lower the, yes.
Dan?
Oh, it's okay.
On the upper left. I saw which one to turn.
Who's the next name?
Rocco Trapazzo? I think T-R-A.
Robert Trapasso Jr. from 43 Pershing Avenue. I lived on at that spot, at that location for the last 39 years. I watched the condos go up across 9A. I've seen the traffic impact that they have had, and I don't think that the 188 units that are going to be put up here on the Stony Lodge property are going to be any less. I looked at the traffic impact statement, and believe me, that statement was almost too good to be true, folks. I don't know how anyone else felt about it, but I did. You looking at that. I don't think it's valid. I think it's a fallacy, and I think it's designed to make the developers look great, like a lot of the other things that are going into the impact statements. One other thing I'd like to say too is the, I know that Mr. Riley had alluded to it, there's going to be 300+ parking spots put up there. I live on the bottom of a hill, and every time it gets a heavy rain, that water floods down Croton Dam Road, makes a turn, comes down my driveway, and rips up my patio. I don't like that, and I don't want it to happen anymore, to be honest with you. But I think when you put up 300 units, 300 parking spaces, that the blacktop is not going to suck that water up. It's got to go someplace. It's going to come right down Croton Dam Road, as far as I'm concerned. And one other thing too, it doesn't affect the impact, but me and the rest of the people that are here, we don't have the financial ability, the expertise law-wise or real estate-wise to fight a multi-million-dollar corporation. That's what we're here for, to help the community, to help us. If you can do it, we appreciate it. Thank you.
Charles Callahan?
Good evening. Good evening to my friends and neighbors in the audience, distinguished members of the panel. Most of the situations have been discussed, not at length. However, I agree with all of them. And this is the reason why. Sewage is a major league situation. I understand from my previous attendance at meetings that surveys were done and it was concurred that, oh, everything is fine, sewage is going to be all taken care of, it's going to be able to accept the volume of 100 and some odd units, okay? I haven't seen anything on the internet, anything else, or the studies. However, I would like to see the reports on it, who did the studies, and what their credentials were, number one, because it's going to be overwhelming. In this neighborhood, it's a residential neighborhood, single-family houses that have been already established by my previous speakers. Second, traffic is going to be abominable. I travel 1.5 hours, okay, each way to and from my work. 9A, it takes me 1 minute to get there. From 9A to the Taconic Parkway, it takes another 20 minutes. This type of traffic and this type of volume, from the impact that it will create, it's going to put another at least, no less, 30 to 45 minutes on my commute. That's just not me. That's including school traffic, and this is 5 days a week. I'm not talking about the weekends. Weekends aren't important as far as I'm concerned in this regard. Schools, that's been discussed. And if I recall, somebody had made a statement that the superintendent of schools, and don't quote me on this, I'm vague on it, it was a long time ago, months ago. But somebody stood up on the panel and said, somebody from the school district, whether it's a superintendent or somebody in supervisory capacity, said, no, the letter said, we'll be overwhelmed by this type of structure, by this type of project, okay? Now, with that being said, last but not least, life safety is the utmost #1 priority to all of us, okay? In the event of all this traffic in the morning or in the afternoon when people coming home from work, if there's an emergency in my neighborhood, and I'm sorry I didn't identify myself, I'm Charles Callahan, I'm from 22 Oak Brook Road. I'm 30-second drive from there, a 1-minute walk, okay? I've been through this coming from the town of Dobbs Ferry. Ardsley made this same mistake. They did all of this structuring, buildings and co-ops and everything else. If they found out that in a 1-mile stretch to get to Dobbs Ferry Hospital from 9A, okay, which is a normal 3-minute drive, it would take an emergency vehicle 45 minutes to get from the location from where the patient had to be transported from to Dobbs Ferry Hospital to. That in of itself tells me that this is not a good idea at all. Not only does it change the structure of the community, Does it impact the people in their one homes? And I've only been here a year and a half, okay? I moved away from this environment and came here because Ossing was the type of community and the neighborhood that I moved into was desirable. This will just change that complexion completely, and for the worse, gentlemen, ladies, not for the better, okay? Money is not an issue here. I understand that these people have, you know, objectives, and all well and good. This is America, and that's what we're here for. Am I done?
Yeah.
Does that mean I'm going to die? Well, here's my point, last but not least. This project has to be shut down. Okay, there's got to be a better.
Henry Grossman?
Board, my name is Henry Grossman. I'm a lifelong resident of Ossining. I was born here, I went to school here. We made a larger high school, a middle school, while I was in high school. At this point, I have to say, this is a terrible idea. I have to agree with everybody that came here before me. And I feel that, as was said previously, this impact is going to be horrendous. And all of these studies, they really have to be taken with a grain of salt, because who's paying for the studies? This is like statistics. You could slant them any way you wish. I mean, if you went to court and they call in expert witnesses, they're definitely going to pay people that put things in their favor and do it very well, even if they have to lie. And I'm sorry, that's the way I feel. This is absolutely wrong. And as a resident, I feel betrayed, because 25 years ago, I bought my single-family home, which was surrounded by other single-family homes. And it was zoned for single-family homes. And if you pass this, I will say that you are betraying every single person in this room.
David Whitlinger?
I'm gonna try to give you a little bit more information on the school stuff. So let me hand these out before I grab the microphone. One more. I do have a question for council, if I could, when we get to the end here. I might run a little long, so please don't honk at me.
Use the microphone?
Yep, you got it? Got it? All right, so the first slide that I have for you here is, this was prepared by the BOCES demographer in November of 2017. And what you see here is the growth of the school system since 2007. So from 2007 at about 4,000 students, you see the line that's drawn there at 2017. That was when the last data was done. That data actually does not include pre-K. It does not include any future projections. So everything to the right of that line does not include anything having to do with new housing structure. That's simply just using a growth curve. What's interesting about this data, which the demographer and I are now trying to figure out, is that all of that growth, there has been essentially a flat housing structure in that Ossining. So if you look at the US Census data in 2007, 2017, the number of housing units is between 11,000 and 10,500. It actually, in some years, went down. But we grew by over 1,000 students in that same time period. The hypothesis is that there were a large number of 1 and 2 bedroom housing that was built back in the 2007 timeframe. It was never anticipated that those structures would become school-age children structures, that those families would move out into single-family housing, and that those structures would then get new small childless families moving into them. That didn't happen. What happened instead was all of those structures became school-age children structures. And in addition to that, all of the places in Ossining where multifamily dwellings could be built is what happened. And so what we have here is not an increase in the housing stock, but an increase in the number of school-age children that are living in the existing housing stock. So we have multiple children in single bedroom and multiple children in 2-bedroom housing, and that was not anticipated. The BOCES demographer, if you look at it, does not believe that there's a flattening of this curve. If you talk to the school board, and you talk to Ray Sanchez, they will tell you emphatically, we are already past capacity. Let's look at the next slide. If you look at this slide, this shows what a class size should be. There's both a policy column as well as an aspirational goal column. If you look in the middle of the slide, there's a column that says the average class size where it is currently. Okay, and you can see that in several cases, we're already past the class size from policy, and we're well past, in some cases, the aspirational goal. It's not hard to take another 100 students into this school system and blow these numbers out of the water. Now, I'll tell you that the school system believes that they do not have the authority to say no. They don't have the authority to turn away any student, which we appreciate. They should never do that. They are there to educate all of Ossining. But they have no authority to stop the growth of the students. That authority lies with you and with the town board. If somebody is going to protect our school system, it has to be you. It has to be you, and it has to be the town board. Turn to the next page, please. Here you'll see, this is the data from last year, where the Ossining High School and the middle school are just represented here. You'll see where they projected numbers and where the difference lies. 90 kids. They projected a number that was off by 90 students. That's almost 4 classrooms worth of kids. There are no more classrooms to be built. You can't put any more classrooms into our school system. So what does that mean? That means increasing the class size. And our students are now already, in some cases, in class sizes of 26 and 27 in the high school. So that's unacceptable for many of the residents here. If you look at the study, the study that they have produced for you, that the developer has produced for you, they've given you 2 different numbers. One of the numbers, they use the Rutgers model. The demographer will tell you the Rutgers model is from 2006. It uses data from 2006. It doesn't even come close to representing what Westchester actually looks like. If you just move over one line in the model, you go from a multiplier that they've used of about 0.18 to a multiplier of 0.74. You double or triple the number of students that would come out of this development. There is absolutely no reason to believe the numbers that they've produced for you. And the demographer from BOCES will confirm that. Lastly, I would like to implore you, this data is available. The school system has the addresses of all of the students and the number of students that come from every address. The building department has the addresses of all of the residents. We have privately foiled this data in order to build a database in order to prove to you where all of this growth is coming from. But that study needs to be done in order for you to be able to make a good, intelligent decision about how to objectively plan for growth of our community. If you keep adding more students to the school system, it breaks. It has to have a $30 or $40 million building built. It breaks. That can't happen. You guys need to do what you're here to do, is protect the school system. So we need the decision time to do that. So let us build the database, let us present the data to you, and then let us have a conversation about what is reasonable growth and when it's time to build a new school or not. But don't approve this project or any other building project until we do that work. The school system will fail, and it's on you, and it's on the town board.
Jess Vecchianelli.
Hello everyone, my name is Jess Vecchiarelli. I live at 97 Lucas Road. I have 2 children in district. They're 4 and 6 years old, so I plan to be in district for a very long time. I know most of my neighbors are aware of this, but I'm not sure that the development company is aware of this. The Ossining Union Free School District is the least funded school district in all of New York State. Out of 700 schools that receive foundation aid funding, we are number 700. 699 other schools receive our tax dollars towards their education billing. Governor Cuomo kept us at this rate last week when he announced his budget. This is incredibly disappointing. Today I confirmed with Superintendent Sanchez that our cost to educate each student is approximately, above $20,000 per child. So if we're going off of their numbers, which I think David just proved are inaccurate, then we're looking at 29.8 children that they estimate will be joining our already at capacity schools. This group has offered to pay the school district $350,000, but that's nowhere near covering the amount of students that would be entering into this school district based on their numbers, which is closer to $580,000. So if for some reason this goes through, I would expect that there would be a significant more impact and cost given to our schools to support the needs. As I said, and as everyone else has said, we're at capacity. It's a very real situation. We're not getting funding from the state. We need funding from anyone that is trying to move in here and build, because our schools need to be supported. And good schools make people want to live here, make for great communities, and when our schools deteriorate, then our whole community is in trouble. Thank you.
Marissa Caruso.
Good evening. I think Dave and Jess have got it covered in terms of my question on the studies for the school enrollment increases. More realistically or practically, I'd like everyone to take a look at more comparable apartment buildings, like 25 State Street and the rental buildings that are, I don't know if they're called Linden Terrace, but they're the brick buildings that are behind Linden Terrace, to see how many students come out of those apartment buildings, because I think those are probably more practical numbers than what was reflected in the reports. There's a lot of reference to Westerly and Avalon as comparables, but I don't think that the demographic of Ossining in the majority is Westerly, Avalon, or even this proposed project. I just don't think it fits the area. The second question I had was with regard to the alternatives that are presented in this plan, because I got the sense last night at the library meeting that the developer isn't really interested in those alternatives. That was just my takeaway from the meeting. And also the way he had presented them, there was a question as to whether or not this planning board would ever even approve them. So is there a way to see something that would be a more realistic alternative to what's being presented? Because I understand there were, if it were to be a single-family development, a bunch of single-family homes in the Meadow area on Croton Dam Road. Is that something that would realistically be approved by this planning board, or is that just the developer's vision? So those would be my requests, to see something that would actually come to in front of you for approval versus what the developer's vision might be. Thank you.
Karen Palmieri?
Good evening to members of the board and to my neighbors behind me. My name is Karen Palmieri. I live in the town of Ossining on Grandview Avenue. And first I will say that based on what I have read of the documents, I wholeheartedly and completely support and reiterate everything I've heard here tonight. That's part one. Part two, I'll just add this. 18 years ago, I moved here from New York City. I moved into a single family home in a town with a single family zone. And the reason I did that is I wanted to get away from noise pollution, traffic, sound, the pollution that comes from those things is, you can do all the studies you want, and this has already been said earlier, but numbers can be made to do whatever they want as well. We know why we love the town of Ossining. We know why we love our community. And this, to put a large building in a community of single-family homes surrounded by wooded area is just, it's wrong. I am imploring, I am begging this board, please don't do this to our community. Please don't do this. This is not Ossining. It will forever change what our community is and why we all love it. And I mean, again, I grew up in New York City. There are places for buildings with 188 units, but the former parcel of Stony Lodge Hospital is not the place for it. Please consider everything you're hearing here tonight, everything you've heard at the library, everything that comes in via those who will bring in communication by written word. Thank you so much.
Lou Kostradova?
Most of the points that I was going to bring up have been already addressed. I moved here from New Jersey 30 years ago. And I grew up in a town where everybody knew everybody, and the families, they raised their kids, and everybody knew everyone in town. So it was a community. And when I came to Ossining, I had the same feeling. And that's why we moved here, okay? I live on Narragansett Avenue. When they come out and 9/8 is going to be backed up, they're going to make the right onto Narragansett, and it's going to be a raceway. I back out of my driveway sometimes, okay? And they crest the hill, and they are moving 40 miles an hour at least, okay? So when the people know that that's the way to go, they'll be going down through the whole community. They'll go down, pass all the way down Narragansett to get on 9A and avoid the traffic, okay? I would ask, I don't want this project. I'm just like everybody else. But I think the thing that would seal the deal is we get an impartial party to do to conduct the traffic and the sewage assessment. Anybody that brings, it's like when you buy a house and the guy serves up the house inspector, guess what? The house passes with flying colors, okay? So I really don't want that. Not that I don't trust them, I would feel more comfortable and I think the residents would too, okay? And you gotta remember also one other thing. If they're catering to these, I guess, empty nesters, they're gonna have 2 cars, okay? Now in the 2-bedroom, they're gonna have 3 cars. And what about the visitors when this beautiful place they wanna come and visit? Okay? So it doesn't belong in the area it is. Build all you want. All the other projects are not in residential areas, period. Okay? And that's all I've got to say. Thank you.
That was it. Is there anyone else that would like to, could you sign in and?
Good evening.
Sign in, please.
If you could just put your name in.
Anybody else who wishes to speak?
And just print it, if you don't mind. Thank you. Just hold on. Yeah, well, you just hold on, because I need to hear you. How do you spell your last name?
One.
Thank you, one.
Good evening. I am from Bedoya. I'm a resident at 4 Bridgebrook
I'm sorry,
Road.
can you repeat that?
I live in 4 Bridgebrook Road, Juan Bedoya. And I live in 4 Bridgebrook Road.
Bridgewood Road?
Bridgebrook Road. Birchbrook. And my father, he's not here because he's very tired tonight. He lives in 37 Pershing Avenue. And my sister also owns a home and she lives in Lincoln. And none of us, the 3 of us, own our own houses here, and we don't want that project here because we want our single families. Because we know if we bring more people into the community, we will like single families, but our school system cannot take it. We're already the lowest funded. Our classrooms are 28, sometimes 30. I can say that because I'm a teacher at the high school, and I know that. And we're not thinking in the future. If our school system fails, no one will want to come to us, and all our homes or prices will go down. But our taxes are not going to decrease. Also, we're building something, a new project, and it's not using renewable energies, no solar panels, no wind. This is a new project, right? We should be thinking of also of the future, and oil is not the future. And that's all I have to say. We are a welcoming community, but we want it done the right way and thinking about the future of Ossining, not about how much money we could make in the short term. Thank you.
Marianne Latin?
Thank you. I know there was some discussion raised about the traffic study, and I just wanted to add something to it that I didn't hear, and that has to do with the train station. I commute into Manhattan on a daily basis. I live at 4 Dewars Court, which is a cul-de-sac off Feeney Road. And someone had mentioned, I think it was Rocco, had mentioned the school buses. There are several school buses that travel down Croton Dam Road and also on Dale Avenue. There's one stop that takes at least 5 minutes. It's on the corner of Dale and Marble, and it takes at least 5 minutes for about 30 to 40 kids to get on the school bus. I assume it's a middle school bus. When I started working in Manhattan over 30 years ago, it took me maybe 5 minutes to get to the train station. I can't even go down Dale Avenue. The light at Dale and Croton, at this point, it takes, you maybe can get 5 or 6 cars through. Then you have another light at the bottom of Clinton Avenue and Croton Avenue. Then forget trying to get down Croton Avenue because there's so much traffic. And then just getting down Main Street, there's another light at the bottom of Main Street. And if you get stuck there, now that you can make a left turn on Spring Street, that backs up traffic even more because there's not a right lane to go around, the car's making the left. That was a really bad decision that someone made. It was horrible. I just think it's very dangerous. But in any event, the parking situation at the train station, from my understanding, there's a waiting list. So not only has that parking lot been extended over the years, there's also permit parking only going up, I'm sorry, I can't remember, it's off Water Street. The bottom of it is where the old water department was. I don't really know what the name of that street is. There's also permit only parking on Water Street. So I wanted to address the fact that there's actually an article that was in The Real Deal, which is a real estate, I don't know if it's just a magazine, but I got it off the internet. And I just wanted to share a couple of things. It says, some millennials in search of affordable rents within commuting distance to Manhattan have exhausted their options to the west, east, and south, and are now looking north past the Bronx to Westchester County. And developers have taken note. So the article goes on and talks about 10 or more different developments that are currently underway along, I would say, there's some in Terrytown, Tuckahoe, there's several. There's even a paragraph in here, sorry, just bear with me for a second. Sorry. This could be a timeout.
Just to remind folks, the public, that any documents you wish to submit, submit to the building department as well. We'll take the
I'm going to put this in writing. It just says, also planned for Ossning is River Knoll, a project developed by Glencoe Residential that is also a 188-unit building. Now, this was written in January of 2017. Glenn Ventremiel, and I apologize if I'm not pronouncing that correctly, managing partner Glencoe said the firm has about $500 million in projects underway in Westchester. A second project is a proposed 3-phase, 750-unit upscale project adjacent to the Mount Vernon West train station, blah, blah, blah. So I just wanted to make that point about if there's an expectation that people are planning to move to Westchester from Manhattan and commute, that will definitely have an impact, major impact, not just at 9A and 134, but throughout the entire village on a daily basis. And then the other issue I just wanted to mention was, were our municipal services taken into consideration as part of the study? I know it's an environmental study, but it still will have a taxing effect on our police force, on our DPW, and on other services, sanitation department. And I just want to know, has that been taken into account also? And I will put my comments in writing and submit them. Thank you.
Alex Malone.
So, my name is Alex Malone. I live at 11 Birchbrook Road. And I have just one real quick question. This area is zoned for single-family residences, correct? Anything more? 2 families, 3 families, 4 families at the most, right?
Single.
So single, right? So if we're a single-family community and we're gonna make an exception, right? Wouldn't that exception want to benefit the community? And I think you're hearing from the community now that this exception should not be granted because the community does not want it. It's that easy. It's an exception that shouldn't be granted because the community who is elected the board doesn't want it. Are we here to benefit 3 gentlemen outside this community so they can put money in their pocket? In the overall, it's going to take money out of our community's pocket, out of our children's education? I'm here 40 years. I just think it's unfair to upset the community over one project where they're the ones that are going to benefit and not us and not our children.
Any other comments? Okay. Okay, now, just to make sure again, is there any other comments? Anybody else wish to put their names down? Again, the time
Yes.
for written comments has been extended until May 16th.
I'm Caroline Irvin. I live at 111 Hawks Avenue.
Wait, sorry. She needs to say your name.
Caroline Cavan?
Yeah, I'm Caroline Curvin. I live at 111 Hawks Avenue. I have some little experience with this, having just gone through the 87 Hawks Avenue or Park Knolls project that was approved by this board. And at that time, I also I wanted to bring up a couple of things. One thing that I had read when I first spoke for the 87 Hawks Avenue was the Austining Town Code, specifically paragraph 55-8A. In considering an application, the Architectural Review Board, which is comprised of all the members of the town board, which of course you know, but I'm just saying this for the people in the room. In considering an application, the Architectural Review Board shall take into account the natural and man-made features of the site and its surroundings, and the character of the zoning district and the peculiar suitability for particular purposes with a view to conserving existing values and encouraging the most appropriate use of land. I looked at the respectingaustingham.com website, which I understand is a website for river knolls, and they're talking about using a Adirondack vernacular for this development. And then I wanted to continue with the town code that says the Architectural Review Board may disapprove any application providing that the ARB finds the project as proposed would be so detrimental to the desirability and property values so as to cause striking dissimilarity, visual discord, or inappropriateness in general, or with response to the structures located on the same street. So I'm not even talking about the size of 188 units. I'm talking about the vernacular, the architectural vernacular. And I would like to say that it's inappropriate. That's all. Thank you.
Is there any other comments from the public? Okay, seeing none, we're about to close the oral public portion of the hearing. Again, the public is welcome to submit written comments up until May 16th. And of course, either the comments today will be addressed by the applicant, and those responses will be in public on the website as well. Anything else we need?
Will the responses be public?
Yes, they will be, the responses from the applicant.
They're going to be in the final environmental impact statement. There's going to be a final environmental impact statement. The applicant will be responding to all of the substantive comments that have been received orally and in writing in the final environmental impact statement, which will be a public document. It will be on the town's website, in the building department, at the library, etc., etc.
good, because there is at least one or two comments I heard that cannot be addressed by the applicant, needs to be addressed by the board. Will they also be covered?
The final environmental impact statement is actually the planning board's document. The planning board is the lead agency. The applicant's going to take a shot at drafting the final environmental impact statement, but ultimately it's going to be the board's document, and the board is going to assure that all of the answers or all of the responses in the final environmental impact statement are accurate. So the board will be weighing in on whatever has been asked of the board.
Now, what about if they don't accept all the changes?
Accept all what changes?
Any changes that we brought up tonight?
Ultimately, it's not this board's decision as to whether to approve this project or not. It's the town board's decision.
It's recommended by you guys, your recommendation.
You have to approve the zone.
Right.
No, this board doesn't approve the zone. This board is going through the environmental process, is going to make sure that the final environmental impact statement.
Hold on, everybody. Do you mind holding 1 second? I'm barely getting what you're saying because of the echo. I can't, so it's not being picked up.
Can we turn that down?
This one's off. It's coming straight back. Can you hear it now? It's completely off.
I shut this one.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay. So,
If everybody's speaking, I can't hear him in the back. Thank you.
this board is the lead agency.
Wait.
Hold on.
Go ahead.
This board is the lead agency with respect to the environmental review process. This board is going to make sure that all of the substantive comments that have been received are responded to appropriately in the final environmental impact statement. Subsequent to that, this board is going to draft a finding statement, which will be a distillation of the draft and final environmental impact statements, and is going to make its recommendation to the town board, the legislative body, as to whether to rezone the property or not. That happens later on. And it all depends, we can't say exactly when it's going to happen.
2018, 2019.
Will there be a way to talk to the legislative body before the...
Mr. Chairman, I can't hear the people speaking. Do you want me to take this down?
Yes, if you can. Look, folks, the court reporter has to take down your statements,
And
and
you
it
have
has to be, you have to only speak one person at a time. Stand up, please, announce who you are, speak slowly, come up, and let the court reporter actually hear you, okay? Because this is all going down on the record so that everybody can understand what issues have been brought up. And that way, when the applicant responds to it, you'll know what the responses were responses to, okay? Now, who is speaking?
Mr. Chairman, could I just ask a question procedurally? Is this still the DEIS comment period, or are these questions related to what will happen after it? Because I want to make sure that if you intend to close the public comment period, that you resolve to do so, and then these questions follow. But it makes the record very confusing for it to seem as if we need to respond to everything that they're asking.
If they're not substantive, you won't have to respond to them anyway. All right? If they're procedural questions, you clearly won't have to respond to them. If there are no further public comments dealing with substantive issues, you won't have to respond to them. That's not the issue. We're trying to address the concerns of the public right now concerning the procedures.
I'm fully supportive of that. I just wanted the clarity, and you provided it. Thank you.
Okay, one person at a time.
Okay.
Tell me your name, sir.
Aaron Spring, 64 Meadow Road.
Okay.
My question is, does the board have the power to stop this project if they don't rezone? If they choose not to rezone, will this project be stopped?
Microphone, please. Yeah, that.
So you said that the board has to decide whether they're going to rezone. My question is, if the board decides not to rezone, does this project get stopped?
You're talking about the town board now.
I'm sorry, the planning board. You guys have the ability to zone, right?
No, absolutely not. The town board is the legislative body. The application was actually made.
Wait, much slower. I didn't even hear his question.
Well, the
You have
planning board-
ability to zone, and then your answer, Mr. Stoner? He said.
Microphone, please.
Ability.
No, wait.
To zone. Okay.
I'll restate my question. Does the planning board have the power to stop this project?
No, not really. It's really a decision, it's a decision of the legislative body. The legislative body is the town board. The town board either rezones the property or it doesn't. This board has no legislative, no rezoning power whatsoever.
But you make the recommendation, don't you?
Yes.
So when will we know what the planning board's recommendation is for the town board?
It's very hard to say. I'm not trying to dodge your question. This has been going on since 2015. It's 2018 now. It's very hard to say how long it's going to take to finish the environmental review of this project. It all depends on how good the final environmental impact statement is that the applicant drafts, how many iterations there are of that document. It could take a year, it could take more than a year. It could take less than a year. It's hard to say.
Okay, thank you.
What's your name?
John Wesley, Dale Avenue.
Okay, John Leslie.
I just want to, when this, when your final report is submitted to the town board for consideration, I assume it's going to take into account this firm's attempt to address the concerns that have been put forth tonight. But I would hope that somewhere in your report to the town board, unless they're watching it on TV, I would like to make sure that it is conveyed to them the tone of this audience, the residents around, the surrounding, in and amongst where this is going to be planted, because it is very clear that the audience is strongly not in favor of this, even if they make attempts to address this. And as regards that, somebody mentioned a $350,000 donation to the school board, the school district. I would think that these guys would come in, they lowball it, so they're probably expecting to pay a little bit more. But I don't think we should be fooled by that, because we're in it for the long term, because we live here. These guys, as it's been said, and rightly so, they want to make a living. But please not at our expense. And certainly if something's going to be done in this community, not up in this neck of the woods right now. I don't wish this on anybody in any neck of the woods in this community, because I don't want to see us become a community that's choked beyond what we already are. Thank you.
Wait, stop.
So there's someone that spoke in the back. Hold on a minute.
Karen Palmieri, I'm on Grandview Avenue.
Okay, we have to wait.
So I have a very simple question that I think many of us in this audience might share. It sounds as though the town board is the legislative, if I'm understanding what you're saying. So here's the question. Will the town board have a public hearing before they make any decisions
Yes.
that are concrete about this?
Yes.
And when would that be?
Eventually.
Oh, that narrows it down, doesn't it, folks? Okay.
We don't control the town
I
part.
understand. It's just, it's been a little challenging, but that's really why we're here. We're here because, yes, the environmental is obviously, you've heard it all night, is a big part of this. But at the end of the day, we want to make sure that we do everything we can to stop this project. Thank you.
I just want to say one thing on timing, if I may.
If you really want to.
Well, the only point is, everyone seems to be focused on timing. The town board will have a public hearing after the FAIS is accepted, and.
Yeah. Well,
I'm
hold
sorry?
on, sir.
No, it's
No,
legal.
no. If you say stuff in the middle of him talking, I don't get anything.
The timing, you were asking about timing, I'm trying to help put that in context for you. It would happen after the FAIS is completed and accepted. Then it's up to the town board on when to set the zoning, the public hearing on the zoning. So,
On when to set the, sir, I didn't, on when to set
when to set the public hearing on the zoning.
the public hearing on the zoning, okay.
How would you feel if we were building this next to where you live? Right, didn't think so.
This isn't about me.
Yeah, it is.
Gentlemen, any other comments?
I just have a question. Again, Marissa Caruso, 2 Redway Road, Ossining.
Quiet, please.
Maybe just clarification or some clarification for everybody here also on the process. Why do we go through environmentals and alternatives and on this project when it's not currently zoned? I guess just a better understanding on why the process is that we're not looking at the zoning issue before the environmental. And we have comprehensive plans for zoning, correct? Isn't that what dictates the zoning? Isn't that something else that we consult you on? So just an understanding of the process, why it didn't go to the town board for a zoning review before it went to the stage of environmentals.
Because the town board is trying to gather as much information as it possibly can. There's a process called the New York State Environmental Quality Review Act. Yeah, let me try that again. The New York State Environmental Quality Review Act, SEQR, which requires that we go through this process before the town board makes any sort of decision. So they're trying to gather as much information as they can, fiscal information, environmental, purely environmental birds and bunnies and bees type.
Okay, but aren't decisions about zoning made via the comprehensive plan that we follow in the town? For
Yeah.
zoning? I mean, isn't that,
Yes, there would have to be a change to the comprehensive plan as well.
okay, but that's something that, that's fine. Okay, just so, okay.
So where does,
Wait. If you wish to come and actually speak, come up to the front, take the mic.
okay, what is your name again?
Mary Ann Latin.
Okay.
I think where there's some confusion is that the study that we're discussing now and the comments that were made tonight, those will be addressed by this organization. And then if that next document is accepted, that's the final version. And it's not whether or not it's approved or people agree with it, it's whether or not it contains all the information that it has to contain to satisfy, is it this group or is it the town board?
It's
The
a
environmental
It's a separate
study.
step. It's a separate step.
Okay, so just for clarification purposes, this group, the planning board, your role is to review any applications for.
In terms of the environmental review, which is what we're doing right now.
Right.
Draft environmental impact statement, final environmental impact statement. This board is the lead agency.
Okay.
So it is up to this board as the lead agency to decide when and if the final environmental impact statement is adequate.
Okay, so assuming that after all these issues have been addressed, that have been brought up, you decide that it's acceptable in that form, it's the final form, what is the next step?
Step after that is for this board to draft and adopt a finding statement. A finding statement is sort of a distillation of the draft and final environmental impact statements.
Okay, so that's one piece of the entire process. So
And then
then
actually-
where does the zoning piece come in? The request to change the zoning laws, the zoning regulations from a single family.
As the applicant's attorney said very well, after the final environmental impact statement is accepted by this board, And after this board drafts a finding statement, it goes back to the town board.
Right.
There'll actually be another report that's required of this board as the planning board by the zoning law, which is a report on the zoning per se, the zoning itself.
Okay.
So that'll be a sort of a second report. First report is the finding statement.
Yep.
And the second report it'll be a memo basically regarding the zoning map change and the zoning text change with this planning board's recommendation as to what the town board should do.
So you would recommend whether or not the existing zoning law should be changed to accommodate a multiple family dwelling in the town
Correct.
/ village of Austin. So that's really your decision, that would be your recommendation, whether yay or nay.
It only would be a recommendation the town board would act.
The town board would act.
Right, you would make the recommendation, but you don't, I understand that you don't have the final decision. You've done your work, you've looked at everything that you're responsible for, and now it goes to the town board. Is there anything that the community as a whole could do, given the fact that there's not a hell of a lot of support for this project?
I don't think we're entitled to give you a legal advice.
I'm not asking you for legal advice, I'm just saying, I mean, this can't be the first time that you've
It's
gone through
always
something
good
like
that a
this.
community expresses itself
Right.
to us.
Okay.
As you know, the members of this board are also your neighbors.
That's why I'm asking, and I appreciate this, and I'm not here to give anyone here a hard time, and I would like that everyone else here feels the same way that I do, because you're all members of the community, and you probably feel the same way like that many of us feel, because you have to live in this
But
town
understand,
also.
we're constrained by what we're allowed to do.
Understood. I understand. I just wanted to make it clear what the next steps were, because I think that that's something that a lot of folks here aren't aware of, whether they don't read. I mean, I'm ignorant, equally guilty of that, so.
It's highly recommended if you wish to make influence the board to really read the document that's been provided by the applicant.
Right.
So that you can have thorough and detailed comments that can be addressed properly.
Agreed.
Okay?
Yes, thank you very much.
I'm gonna need a break at some.
Oh, okay.
Going? I mean,
It's okay, that's right. Is anybody else be after this gentleman?
Yeah, I want to speak.
All right. Why don't we take how long would you like?
No.
That's getting over.
You want me to take the notes?
I understand that. All
Oh,
right.
guys, okay. It's 9:15. Is there a time we end, or we don't?
We might continue a little bit longer.
Okay, so I'm gonna take a break.
I will take Bill, you get 4 minutes.
Go off the record.
I'll wait.
Oh, yeah, it's gonna be, yeah.
Take a 15-minute break?
Thank you.
No. I'm sorry, the court reporter has to be able to take down your statements.
I'll make it
Why didn't we start on time?
Yeah.
Well, there was no parking space outside.
We've got Margaret, we got here on time.
Yeah, I worked on that. No, I worked on the development when the building was there, so I know what the lodge, and I lived there for 27 years.
I'm only one person. My wife, my dad was mom, my father was a grandpa. The world has changed, yeah, but this is getting crazy. And that's what people are loving. They're loving.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, have them right on that list.
You know what, wait, sir, you have to write your name right here, please. Did you sign it already? Not yet? Can you? Okay. Joe. So hold on, Joe.
Okay.
Don't do anything yet. Okay.
Say your name, Ms. Cole.
Can't hear.
Okay, ready, Joe.
Okay, thank you. Joe Burton, Pershing Avenue. I just need to clarify in my own mind on the whole process. And you're the lead agency of the DIS. You gain all this information that you have now, everything that was input from now until May 16th. You then put together your report.
Yes.
Just very simple. Now, you put together a report.
There's a document that's going to be prepared called the final environmental impact
Right.
statement.
But I'm just saying, very simply, you make your report, your final report.
No, it's not the final report. The final report with respect to the seeker process, the environmental review process, is going to be a finding statement that the planning board will draft and adopt.
And then it goes to the town.
Goes back to the town board.
The town board then takes your information from the public, has a public hearing, which is posted. It's no secret. It is posted that there is a public hearing coming up on this at a town board meeting, et cetera, et cetera. They then gain all this information from yours, theirs, and make their decision. Now, if they make a decision not to rezone, everything is done, it's dead on the project. Right. If they make a decision to rezone it, it's then comes back to this board to approve everything that has been put in. What goes up, how many units there are, how many parking spaces there are, how many elevators there are. Am I correct on that?
Yes, there would be site plan approval.
Right, and that could take, and that site plan approval could take a project of 7 stories to 4 stories. Could.
Well, what's that?
Well, not in this case, because it's not 7 stories.
Okay, excuse me. You could take a 4-story and make it 2 stories. You could take a 2-story and make it 1 story. Right? You could take a 1-family house with 4 bedrooms and make it 3
Why
bedrooms.
would you want to have this board make decisions like that, rather than
I'm
addressing
asking the
town board?
question that it goes full circle.
It's, okay. Remember, this planning board is administrative. We can only work within the constraints of what the code and the town board tells us we're able to do.
But you have final approval on what is.
Only within whatever the code tells us we can do.
Right. But we
And
don't know.
if the planning board has, prior to that, come to, and I'm not saying the planning board is going this way or that way, but if it comes to a conclusion that there's no visual or no significant adverse visual impact from the project as proposed, later on it would be probably impossible to change it from the height it is proposed to some lesser height.
Then that's the question that people keep on shouting out. Then what?
Depends what conclusions are reached during the environmental review process.
Okay. And then it still comes back here for a final approval of what goes up.
For site plan approval, yes.
Right. But the site plan approval can be changed, altered.
The planning board has some latitude. It all depends on what conclusions have been reached prior to that.
That's what I'm trying to clarify. It can be changed.
No, well, look,
Not to a major, I'm saying, you have your final approvals of what is built.
do not call it final approval. I think that's really, it really obscures what you're trying to get at, which is where you can influence and change the decision-making process. Once this planning board has come to conclusions about the facts, we have to operate within those facts. So we've already decided that 4 stories doesn't impact anything. Then I can't go back, we cannot go back later on and say, oh, now we demand it to be 2. You understand?
So the picture that's on that there is what's gonna go up.
Well,
I mean, to say at this point.
I'm being, that you have already approved, basically.
Nothing's been approved. We are not
That's what I'm trying to get
even,
to.
we haven't finished the secret process yet. We are in the middle of the secret process.
But I keep on asking the question, can things be changed? And I keep on getting I don't know, maybe. Can things be changed once,
Let me ask you-
once the town board approves?
Let me ask you a better question. Why are you asking whether we can change it at a later stage if you can change it before it gets to us?
I don't understand that question.
Okay.
I can't change anything.
Well,
You can. I was trying to clarify things because it seemed to get confused on where everything was going. It seemed like it was up that you were taking all our information and then it was just the town was going to just approve or deny. But that's not the fact. All your information is then put into a report that goes to the town, your environmental study.
and the town makes the decision.
The town makes the decision. They make the decision, and again, it's not a secret decision. It's a well-publicized that we're having a board meeting, like this one tonight, except for the town board. But after that decision is made, it comes back to your table, right?
Only in a limited sense, not in the same manner as what is
And it
going on.
depends what the decision is.
Well, yes, that's true.
Right, so-
Well,
If the town board-
if one decision kills everything, then it doesn't come back to you.
But even if it comes back to us, we can only operate in a limited sense after the decisions have been made by the town board and our previous findings. You understand? You don't want it to get to that stage if that's your intent.
They have very limited influence at that point. That's what they're saying.
Right.
I don't know your name.
It's your recommendation that the town board is gonna listen to. So you're the ones who have to give them the recommendation whether you want to pass it or not, for them to make that decision.
Can you give your name, please?
You have to come up here.
My name is Norman Markham, and I live at 82 Croton Dam Road.
Can he come forward where
Yeah,
the
no
record
idea
is
what
not
you said.
being...
No, could you please come up and sign the document and speak?
Okay, so wait a second.
It'll be in everyone's benefit if it's...
I think he was next.
This
I think
gentleman
he said,
This gentleman was next.
That's what I said.
oh,
Oh,
okay,
okay.
so sign there or print.
I did.
Hey, Samir Jain, Pheasant Ridge Road.
No, hold on.
Okay,
If
sorry.
I don't, I'm the most important person here besides the chair.
That you are.
You know what? Slow down, everybody, and get tired.
Trust, she's correct, by the way. I've heard many judges tell me that the court reporter is the most important person.
SAMEERJAIN.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Go ahead.
Samir Jain, Pheasant Ridge Road. I had a couple of questions here. One was maybe the faster one, hopefully. The questions that are being posed here, as well as that you will receive online or written, the written questions, will they be posted somewhere and be available for public viewing before the 16th of May, which is the deadline, or will they be made available afterwards? So,
They'll be contained in the final environmental impact statement.
but I don't have, we won't be able to see what other people are asking or,
If you were to go to the planning board office, you could see whatever has come in.
I see. Okay, thank you. The other question, thank you for spending so much time helping us understand the process here. If I understood correctly from the questions that the lady asked earlier, it seemed as if there are two processes over here, an environmental impact study that you will write about, and then one report on whether or not to rezone the area. Is that correct, or is that just one document that will be?
There are actually two reports.
Okay, thank you.
Which
So I did catch that.
You
Please go
you
ahead.
cut it really well, and I failed to mention it just earlier. There's the finding statement, which is regarding the environmental review.
Understand.
And then there's a report which is provided for in the zoning law. The zoning law says that the planning board is supposed to write a report back to the town board, or has the opportunity to do that anyway, regarding the zoning map change that's proposed and the new zone, the text that's proposed.
Okay. And so what goes into that second report about the changing in the zoning laws, and will there be any public hearings on that?
There won't be a public hearing on that, but it'll be discussed in open session at a public meeting.
Okay, and what goes into that in terms of input?
It's a, there are various considerations the planning board is supposed to address. I don't have the zoning code with me, but if you look in the zoning code under amendments, it specifies it all right there.
Okay, so it's, you're saying you have a pretty clear set of steps that you need to follow to decide whether or not the property can be rezoned? Is that essentially what you're saying?
We don't, the planning board doesn't rezone. The planning board.
Makes a recommendation. Let me rephrase. You have a very clear set of procedures that you need to follow in deciding whether to recommend whether to rezone the property or not.
Yes, and that's a process that's set forth in the zoning code now.
Okay.
So what the zoning law says, in section 200-52A,
That's fine. I'm not going to read it right now. If you can-
it says, report of the planning board. In making such report on a proposed amendment, the planning board shall make inquiry and determination concerning the items specified below, and then there are items specified below that for a text change and for a map change.
I see. Okay. And you're saying there is no opportunity for the community to give feedback into that process of whether or not to, the recommendation for whether or not to rezone the property?
It remains to be seen.
Because I think a lot of the questions over here are about whether we should rezone the property or not, and it seems to me as if that is one of the big decisions to be made over here, and a round of public feedback on that aspect, I think, may not be unwarranted.
There's no requirement for a public hearing per se.
Okay.
The planning board may or may not take input with respect to that report.
Okay, got it, okay. And, and for the environmental report, can you give some sense of, and this is a very open-ended question, I don't know if you'll, but what are the sort of issues for which it gets rejected?
What are the?
What are the set of, are there a set of, what are the scenarios or examples? Can you give some examples under which you would recommend not to,
No.
no, okay.
Thank you.
Okay, cool, thank you.
Good evening.
Noel Markham?
Noel Markham, yes. I live at 82 Croton Dam Road. I was impacted by Spring Pond and the woods. Now, when they went up, the sewage started backing up. My neighbor has to put check valves.
Nobody can hear you. They're saying
Okay.
they can't hear you.
I was impacted with Spring Pond and with the woods. I'm on, I guess, the east side, northeast side of 9. The sewer system just won't hold. We have check valves coming into our basements because they keep on backing up. Traffic is totally ridiculous. On rush hour, from 9A back past Minkle, it's bumper to bumper. You've let the trucks come down there now. When I first moved up here, they were never on the roads. Been up here for 40 years. Now, we got tractor trailers 24 hours a day. You have the impact from GE down here with the helicopter. They're allowed to come 20 times a month. This isn't a rural area anymore. You're putting us in downtown Manhattan, right next to an airport, in the middle of a highway. 180 units, 186 units, you're gonna have 200, 300 cars. The only way to get to the Taconic is straight across 9A and up 134. You're not talking about 1 or 2 cars, you're talking about 50, 60 at rush hour every single day. Coming up from Croton, you can't make the turn. Even they put the traffic light up there and they put the arrow, you got one tractor trailer there, you backed up into the lane coming south. God forbid, sometimes someone's gonna get killed there. There've already been 2 or 3 fatalities on 134 itself. You have to make a recommendation to the planning board for the town. Correct? From this impact statement here? Then you put a recommendation to them. I'm sure that weighs quite a bit for them to change the zoning. Now, if you don't listen to the constituents that have you up here, that live in this development, that don't want it, who want you? It's not right. We live here. You live in the community, not right where it's being impacted. Go over there, buy a house in that development, move into the development.
Why are you looking at me?
I'm looking at you, I'm looking at everybody on the board here. You're the closest one, sorry, not picking out you out intentionally, but everybody. I mean, listen to everybody that's been here tonight, has been up here. Nobody wants it. All you have to do is vote no. That's it. It's finished.
Okay, what's your name again, sir? Rocco.
Rocco Trapasso, Jr. Just a quick question, I'm still not clear on something. If this report is not accepted by you, what happens then? Do you still present it to the town board, and then they have to make a determination? Easy question, guys, yes or no? I mean, I'm not trying to put anybody on the spot.
You're stumping me here. Which report are you talking about?
The environmental impact report that you're talking about, that you said is got to be.
The final
Final
environmental.
report, right.
Hold on, so sorry, Mr. Stallman, I didn't hear anything. He said to you, what report are you talking about? I didn't hear your answer.
My answer was the environmental or report that you're talking about that's got to be approved. I'm hearing about approval over here.
Okay, you don't have to explain, that's all I need.
Okay.
Rocco,
Yes.
it's not a matter of approving the document or not. We're gonna.
Accept it, excuse me.
We're gonna
Let
create
me
this document.
rephrase that, accept it.
If it goes too many iterations back and forth between the planning board can take it over and write it itself.
The planning board can take what over and write it itself, the report?
The facts. The final environmental impact statement.
Okay, that's, my question again is, I've heard it's been, when it's accepted, I want to know, has it been accepted? You're telling me no, or you're telling me it's been accepted and it's on its way forward?
The draft has been accepted, the final hasn't been written yet.
The draft has been accepted?
Yeah.
The draft has been accepted as a, you completed everything, is that?
No, the draft is for you to go and
I
respond to.
yeah, I understand. Well, for me to go sit and take a look at that, I gotta be a lawyer like this gentleman over here. I couldn't do it, folks, I'm sorry, I don't think I can make it, you know?
This is an important point.
I was going to hold a comment until later, but first I want to thank the community for coming out and sharing a lot of really thoughtful comments. So really appreciate that. And it brings nuance to some of the things that we've been thinking about, of course. The main thing I want to say is that you should really try to take a look at this document. There's a lot of good information. It's very clear, and it answers a lot of the questions that you've been asking. Specifically, if you don't have a lot of time, stop by the library, take a look at it, and open it to, I'll give you the page. Chapter 5, page 26. And what it does is it presents in table form all of the potential impacts, all of the things you've been talking about, and compares the impact of this project to the impact of the other alternatives that have been considered, two of which are alternatives for the current zoning. So projects that could come in more or less as of right are being compared. And in some cases, you might be surprised to find how they compare.
You're talking single-family housing, is that
Yeah,
correct?
single-family housing for an R15 zoning. So it's important for you to remember, as a community, that it's not this project or open parkland, open fields. It's this project or some other project that will come. And another project that will come inevitably could at least be the R15 as of right project, which in some ways compare very favorably, sometimes better, sometimes worse, depending on the impact that you're looking at.
I got you.
So take a look at that table. It answers a lot of questions.
I will say, I just want to add one thing to what you're saying, all right? As far as the looking at what else could go in there and everything like that, that's what you guys are for. You guys are to make that determination, what can or can't or shouldn't or should go in there. All right? That's what you guys are here for, to do that, for us, for the community. Am I correct? If I'm not correct, tell me I'm wrong. But you were supposed to do this for us. That's why you're here.
That's why you're giving us comments.
I'm giving you comments, right, but we're giving you comments because you're here to work for the community, for the people.
But remember, we can only operate under the rules that we're given.
I understand that, and one of the primary rules I think that you're given is that you gotta be doing things for the good of the community and what's gonna help the community out.
That's one consideration.
One
under the
consideration, but
rules.
it's a prime consideration.
We're not elected. The
I know
town
you're not.
board is elected.
I know that. That I know. But, you know, you are appointed because people feel that you have the integrity to do things for the village and for the people that should be done, and make it right and worthwhile.
Thank you.
All right? And I'm hoping that that's the case. If I'm wrong, we'll find out pretty soon, I'm sure.
Any other comments?
Could you come?
Please
Yes,
give
sign
it,
in, please.
sign in first before speaking.
I'm already signed in, but sign in again.
Sign in again, please.
Okay, so you're number 5 and you're on to number 6, if you don't mind. Thank you. Rick? S-K-I-L-T-O-N. Oh, Skelton, okay. Okay, this is Rick Skelton.
Good evening.
Mike, please.
Good evening is where it's at that time.
What's your name? We didn't hear it.
My name is Rick Skelton. I live at 80 Coton Dam Road. And I have a couple. At the end of the day, I'm a numbers person. And I agree with everything everybody had to say. And my primary concern is I used to live in Yonkers. And we moved from Yonkers to Oxman about a year and a half ago. And we specifically moved into a single-family zone because Oxman was just developing, and they just kept adding projects exactly like this. I remember we lived right at Greystone train station, and they just put up this very nice, fancy building, same one you guys are gonna put up, and it blocked the hell out of my view of the Hudson. And that was my reason for moving, because I was not gonna pay $3,000 for rent and not be able to see the Hudson River. So we moved up here about a year and a half ago, and starting this September, we actually enrolled our daughter in Brookside. Now, I drop off, that early drop off, 7 in the morning. I can't go down 9A. I have to go the back way to Grace, because you can't get onto 9A at 6:45 in the morning. The traffic is unbelievable. I didn't get to read everything because my neighbor Noel, he called me this morning, so I got to at least read the traffic study. And if anybody in this audience have read the traffic study, it's BS. It's complete BS. There's no way it takes 2 minutes, a car turns every 2 minutes. That's what it says. That's unbelievable. But again, I did get an opportunity to look at this for the last 30 minutes or so when everybody was arguing, conversing. And so we're looking at a market value of $24 million. So the town's gonna pick up taxes of $1.4 million. 188 units, they're saying only 373 residents are gonna be added to the community. I would think that would be closer to 400. And they're saying of that, the number of students anticipated to be added from 373 residents is 29. I only have one child. But if you add 373 residents, how did you come up with 29 students? Brookside's already overcrowded. And I hear from the rest of the audience that all the other schools in this community are overcrowded. In this proposal, they're saying $350,000 will be added to the school system. Where's the rest of that going to come from? School taxes got to go up. Numbers here. See, this is the proposal they put out there what I would like to see is the proposal they put to the town board. Because in that proposal, it has to say how much residential income is gonna be picked up by the community, whether it's the town, the village, etc. That's the one I really want to see. And I think that's the one everybody in this room wants to see. Because otherwise, why will we be proceeding with this project? No, I want to see the real numbers, not these numbers. Okay? Just like that, this mimics the traffic study. Traffic study isn't real. Have you ever made that left turn or right turn onto 9A? You live in the community, right?
I'm not arguing with you.
No, do you live in the community? Do you take 9A? 6:45 a.m.?
I'm not arguing with you.
Okie dokie. So, this is good. It's really good. And I can write it myself. Because this is what I do fiction. There are real numbers out there. Real numbers. I also do real numbers. And then I make them into fiction. Somebody has the real numbers. There's a reason why we're here. There's a reason why this project is going to proceed. Because somebody was given some real numbers and it's going to benefit. If it's going to benefit, tell us what it's going to benefit. Because right now, what I see as a property owner who relocated to a single-family district, now you're going to turn it into a multi-family district less than a mile from my home. So do I get to turn my house into a multi-family home? Can I get this tenant? Why not?
Oh, hold on.
If we can rezone it for him, why can't we rezone it for me? My basement is finished. All I had to throw in the stove. Okay? Well, thank you very much for your time.
You have to come back up here.
Sorry.
Oh, you're raised, I'm sorry. Okay.
Hi, Ray Santucci, 29 Grandview Avenue again. You were speaking about what they propose as far as alternatives in that plan that they've given out. However, what they proposed is his vision of it. It's not what would really happen. We were at the meeting last night, and I believe it was you who was there who even said, what is on there where you see houses scattered about? I think it was like in R15, it was 35 homes or something like that. You'll never get 35 homes on that property due to steep slope, wetlands, and other factors that it's just not going to be possible for them to build like that. And if you want to do something with the alternative plan that's in there, make it real. Put what you could really put on that property, okay, and show us the traffic and environmental impact then. Because what you're showing us is not real. It's what you're trying, it's a scare tactic to try and show everybody, look at how it will impact our community, when in reality, no. That's not real. Put what really needs to be there. You'll probably get maybe, if you're lucky, 15, 16 homes on there. That's what you'll get. And then they can pay real taxes with all that property. And then you'll see you'll be much better off.
Thank you. Oh, thank you.
Okay, so, having seen no other public comments, we're going to close the oral portion of the public comments as of tonight.
Hold on, ladies. Can you hold on a second? I have to listen to the chairman.
So we'll close the oral portion of this. Again, we remind the public that written comments can still be submitted all throughout May 16th. And
you want to entertain a resolution to close the public hearing?
yes, okay. Do I have a, anyone want to make a motion for that? Closing the oral portion? No. No, okay. appear to be one, so we're gonna keep this open?
Yep.
Yes, you
I just
said?
want to make sure, absolutely sure that everyone said what
Do
they
you
want
want
to
this
say.
on the record, sir?
Yes,
Yeah,
keep it
a
on
little
record.
louder, I can't hear you. I want to make sure.
I just want to make, I think we all want to make sure that everyone has taken the opportunity to speak their minds and that they don't feel rushed.
Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, with due respect, with the comment period out another month for people to write, and everyone in the room has spoken. Mr. Chairman, with due respect.
With due respect, Counsel, do you count how many people there are on the board? Did you see the 2 people said
Yes,
not to?
Yes, sir, I understand.
So how would I get a resolution?
I'm just asking if I can address the board at this point, because to have another night of a public hearing when we had 2.5 hours of a public hearing. I'm just asking the board to consider the fact that we had 2.5 hours of public hearing with a very good turnout and a lot of comments. And if we're going to continue, if you're going to continue the public hearing, then everyone should know that the May 16th date is not a meaningful date, because you'll set the comment period after you close the public hearing, with due respect. Because you could have, theoretically, you could not close the public hearing in May, we're in April now, and continue, you need at least 10 days for the comment period to continue.
I mean, if you're going to adjourn the public hearing, if you don't want to close the public hearing, you need to adjourn it to a date certain.
Did you want it on the record, Miss?
No, actually, just to
I
clarify.
didn't hear you. I didn't, is
Sorry,
that,
I
that-
said if the board is deciding not to close the public hearing,
Uh-huh.
it's, sorry.
That's okay. but
It
you-
should be adjourned to a date certain.
Okay, thank you.
I just want to clarify that I wasn't saying I didn't want to close the hearing tonight. I just wanted to, what I was saying is I wanted to give a few more minutes for the audience to think if they wanted to add any further comments before we close the hearing.
I would like to make a comment. I just learned something.
Okay, just a minute, ma'am.
Nancy Kennedy.
Okay, hold on. Nancy Kennedy.
Yes, thank you. I commented before. I just inquired as if, that I want one copy, a hard copy of the report that's presented here. Some people have them, but not everyone. I'd like a hard copy, and I understand that it's been provided by you. Could you provide us with a hard copy of this report?
This is up to the planning board, not me.
They're available, I believe, at the library.
One individual, I can go take it out?
I don't know how it's set up at the library.
No,
How many
I'd
copies
like
are in the
my own
library?
copy to take home and read.
Sandy, is it available?
This
as a
online, isn't
PDF?
it? It's on PDF.
I don't have the time to sit down and read it online. I want to take it with me and review it in hard copy so that I can follow
It
what's
has
being
to
done.
be one at a time. Mr. Stillman, go ahead.
Sandy, we can get a copy or make a copy, can't we?
I can send it out to be copied, but then you would have to pay the copier service.
I don't know why we can't just get a copy. I wouldn't be the only one that could benefit from it. I have children.
How many
I have
copies are in the
jobs.
library?
I'm not sure whether there's one or two, but Mr. Chairman, can I have that, please?
Sure, I don't know if it's working. but-
Mr. Chairman? This is on, okay. This document coupled with the appendices is the DEIS. This is what's online and available. It's not inexpensive, it's fairly expensive to print it. We deliver the number of copies to the town that were requested. And if we're asked to make multiple copies for anyone who asks, that's a significant additional expense. I'm not looking to be cheap here, but it's not something that we were asked to do, and we did provide them. If there's another 1 or 2 copies that are needed at the library, we're certainly happy to accommodate that. We'll try and do that. It's up to the planning board.
How many copies can we put at the library for them to check out on?
How many copies did we or can we?
Huh?
How many copies did we or can we?
Both. I mean, I don't know how many copies are in the library. I know they're in there, but I don't know how many there are.
I don't,
I believe it's just one.
Just one? Can the applicant provide 2 more copies at the library?
We'll arrange to do that.
And I can take one home and mark it up.
They're not, I don't know if they're, that's up to the
They're
library.
library items, you would have to check them out.
But still not common.
Perhaps we could ask the library to designate one as a reference, so it doesn't go out and others can be taken out.
And how would I know that when this happens?
Wait a minute, if you want this on the record, it's over here with the mic and slowly, and I can't hear anybody.
I'm sorry.
Okay,
I just would like to
so
know how I can,
How can I go
about
that?
getting one of those copies to bring home with me.
When you say bring home with
Bring
you,
home
you
with
mean
me.
check out or
No,
you mean marked up?
take home and mark
If
up.
you wish to
and
mark
then-
up your own copy, you would have to buy one.
Fine, how much does it cost?
Look, I have an extra copy and
Hold
I'll
on.
send it to you.
How much does it cost?
No, I'm gonna send it to you. I have an extra copy, I don't mind giving it to you. I just don't want everybody else to ask for one too.
That's up to the applicant.
I will send you one, just give me your address before I leave, and I'll make sure you get one.
I think it's rather cheap. Okay, I think we should all have a copy. But that's my opinion, okay?
They're not cheap.
They're a few $100
No,
to
it's
print.
cheap of you, because you are investing in a very high-end
Just showing you a
community.
favor, I'm giving you.
But I agree with that.
I'm sorry, can you address
the board, not the
Thank you. All right, I'll give you my
I have
address.
no problem giving you a copy.
Any other questions or comments from the public?
Yeah, thank you, I appreciate that. Please shut that off. Thank you very much.
You probably want to mark it up, I understand.
So this is the last call. Any further comments for,
I have a question, actually.
Okay. Oh, wait a minute. Okay,
Dan
Rossing, yeah.
That's Nancy Kennedy.
Nancy. All right, Nancy,
Can you say your name out loud so we can hear while you're writing it?
Natalie Farina, I'm at 2 Downey Road.
2 Downing Road.
Yep. So, now that we've had a chance to comment on this environmental impact, from what I understand, these comments then get sent to the developer to try to address them in a revised environmental statement. Is that true? So who has the expertise to look at their response to see if, in fact, what we're looking at now really does address the questions that are being asked? Will the superintendent get a chance to then look at the numbers in this revised document? Will we see when the traffic pattern or the traffic survey or the traffic study is being conducted? And how is it that you will know, that you'll be able to verify that the same people that produce this document will then provide you with an updated study that accurately answers the questions that we asked? Because I don't know, like, what will you use to determine the validity of this new survey, given that it's not being produced by anyone other than the developer whose desire it is to make this happen?
I'm not sure it requires a response.
in terms of traffic, we have a traffic division of our firm. I'm a planner, I've been working at this for the last 40 years. Dan over there is the planning board's consulting engineer. We have legal counsel over here.
So will we see, though, will we, the public, see that you have in fact addressed the questions that we have and satisfied us? Will we have another chance to comment and say, hey, we took pictures, we saw that that rope was across the road when school was not in session, Or we saw that that rope was across the road when it was the summertime, or I just.
Every version of the,
would like to know.
every version of the final environmental impact statement that the applicant submits will be on file in the planning board office, and you can go there and, I don't know if you need to foil the document, or is it a FOIL request?
No, they can just come and look at it.
Right, so
And
the
if-
public can look at all of the versions of the FEIS, including the one that eventually gets accepted.
But, I mean, so the superintendent's word is going to be superseded by what the developer is going to put out there in his revised statement?
His words are his words. I don't understand what your question
But
is.
shouldn't the superintendent's word supersede anything that gets put forward by the developer of this project?
The planning board has conferred with the superintendent before. It certainly has the ability to confer with the superintendent again regarding the document.
Will that happen?
It's up to the planning board.
Shouldn't that happen?
Will that happen?
I mean, certainly the superintendent can be given a copy of
I
the,
think what you're asking is, are there going to be substantive reviews of the studies?
That's what I
Yes,
would like
and the
to
answer to the question is yes, there will be, by the village's consultants. I think that's, I'm sorry, we're in the town, by the town's consultants.
Thank you.
John Leslie, Dale Avenue. Maybe I've interpreted it wrong, but I'll say it anyway. I just get the feeling that is, you guys have a set of specs that you need to see that these guys have checked off correctly. And if they haven't, somehow or other, they have to address that. So it just sounds like this, to the extent that you guys approve their plan and then pass it on and say it's ready for town board to take a look at it, it almost seems like your hands are tied. That you, as long as they fulfill their obligation to meet this checklist, then you have to comply with your jobs as is specified. You keep saying you're bound by certain things. Even though you may have your own personal feelings about something, you have a job to do. How do I feel about that? Well, on one hand, I respect the fact that you have a job to do, but on the other hand, I guess it's up to the town board to listen to the public here. We may not fully understand this process because you've been hammered with it a number of times tonight. But I hope somebody, if it's not you guys, that you have to listen to the passion of the audience, that it's the town board that will ultimately get the message. Thank you.
Are there any further comments? Now it's last call. Seeing none, I would make the motion to close the public hearing. Is there any second?
Close the public hearing, I thought it was open till May 16th.
The oral portion.
He didn't say oral.
Any second? I don't hear a second. We'll wait.
I think we should.
Linda, you're going to close it or you're going to adjourn it? So,
Adjourn it to
does somebody want to make a motion to adjourn it?
Does somebody
We need
want
to-
to make a
we need
motion?
to-
I'll make a motion to adjourn it.
I'll second that. To adjourn, I mean, we can continue
And what-
discussing this
and what's the
subject
date?
matter, correct?
The next available date?
It means there would
I'm
be
sorry,
another public hearing
Mark,
on
can
another
you say
night.
that again?
Then we
If we're leaving,
continue to discuss,
leaving it open for
we
written
discussed
comment,
18 topics
I
tonight,
don't think
with
there's
the
any
public
harm
at 18
in leaving it
topics,
open.
Okay,
approximately. I want to just continue,
okay, yeah, that's good, I got that, I just can't, if you guys want to, I wasn't hearing them.
what I gather out of this whole thing is, the public has until May 16th to write their comments. When they write their comments, we, the planning board, would like to hear what their comments are written. We've also got 18 items here. The developer also has to address those 18 items and probably what other items are out there also, which means that on May 16th, there's going to be, this thing hopefully will be marked up in red, saying that we accommodated this of the 18 items that were discussed tonight. In addition to the questions that the public has, we as the planning board members will need time to read those documents, whether or not they compiled into something that's a little bit more concise, for us to make a logical decision. I don't know. Kathy, am I right or wrong?
We're just talking about whether we continue this public hearing on another night. That's what we're talking about.
And that would, and of course, if we continue it, then we extend the time period all up down the line.
The comment period needs to be at least 10 days, the written comment period needs to be at least 10 days following the close of the public hearing. So if, for example, you continue this public hearing on the 2nd of May and closed the public hearing that night and ended the written comment period on the 16th, that would comply with seeker. If you had the public hearing earlier than that and extended and had the written comment period go out to the 16th, that would give you even more time between the end of the public hearing and you just need to, if the 16th is the end of the written comment period, you have to hold the public, if you're going to continue the public hearing, it's got to be at least 10 days before that.
All right, I'm going to request to go into executive session so I could ask a legal question from council. Can I have a motion to go into executive session? Second.
I also agree.
Thank you. We'll be back.
Take care, guys.
Okay. Motion to return back to public session.
I second it.
No objections?
No objection.
Okay, anybody want to propose a motion for closing the oral portion of the public meeting?
Closing the public hearing.
Public hearing, the oral portion, yes.
I'll make a motion to do that.
It's on you.
I'll second it.
Any objections? No objections, okay. So the public hearing, oral portion is closed.
Yes. And the written portion is open until May 16th.
What other?
Could we ask Sandy to repeat the email address for emailing written comments?
Yes, I can give you the email is building department, and the words are abbreviated. It's BLDGDEPT@townofossining.com. No, just townofossining.com.
Is there a link somewhere in the Town of Ossining website?
Yeah, and you could, if anyone wants to call our office, you can call and I can help you, take you through it, so where you can find the whole document and all the other reports and projects.
And can you just give me a telephone number?
It's 762-8419, 914.
And the next meeting of the planning board with an entirely different agenda is April 18th.
Yes, this is not on it. Got it.
Oh, and is it okay if we ask the applicants to just put 2 extra copies in the library?
Yes, certainly we agree to that. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a motion to adjourn, unless there's other comments on the board?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second that.
Any objections? Thank you. Thank you, folks.
Thank you.
Good night.
I would have put it over under